Hey guys, this is Tauna's. Today we're going to be talking about which of the new archetypes, 10 new archetypes with Bloomburrow, you can actually build a commander deck around. Obviously, you know, there's a variety of different little critters, and while it's not meant to be a typal slash tribal exactly set, it is meant to kind of essentially be that in spirit. So like, for example, the bat folk are all built around life gain and life loss. They're not meant to kind of, you know, tie in with a whole bunch of other bats and stuff, but the legendaries do kind of bring it all in together to the point that we can look at commander decks for them. So before we get into it, make sure you guys subscribe, share the video around, all that kind of stuff. I love to hear from you guys as to what you guys think and stuff. So let me know if you like the video or not. So with obviously the new set, we've got a lot of new legendaries. There is 36 new legendaries between BLB and BLC. So, you know, Bloomburrow and Bloomburrow Commander. Now, I'm not going to be talking about all of them. I'm just aiming for the ones that actually care about, you know, tribal, or at least are similar enough that I can kind of talk about them. There's some that I'll talk about, you know, I'll just basically say, this one's not really tribal. It could be, but yeah. All right. So starting off with the Otters, because we're starting with A here, is Alania. So Alania is all about spells, instants, sorceries, and Otters, right? So you can do, you know, tie this into Otters, which is really nice. And then we've got Bria as the kind of secondary option that you could potentially use as an Otter commander. Now, I will say that Bria is probably the better commander overall, like if you're just running, you know, spellslingers and stuff, but I do think Alania is a better Otter commander. Now, having a look at how many Otters we've got a number of different things. So I'm going to be looking at both the creature types and also if anything generates, you know, Otter tokens or whatever creature tokens, because I think that's important to talk about as well, because it's not just, you know, the actual creatures we're talking about, but if you can generate tokens for that creature, it basically kind of counts, right? So having a look at the Otters, there is 19 different Otters that are within the, you know, is it colors. So most of these do have similar, like, you know, synergies, which is great. Like, you know, synergizing alongside the instants and sorceries. There is a little bit here where you're a little bit off, where, you know, you're not entirely sure if this could potentially go in there. It's mostly just like Eon Frolicker is probably the one that I'm kind of thinking of here that I don't think you would potentially run in like an Is It Spellslinger deck. But overall, you know, all of these kind of synergize really well with the Thieving Otter, not so much as well. But, you know, most of them, because of the fact that they come out with Bloomburrow, all synergize well with the commander and synergize well with what they're trying to do, which is spellslinging. Looking at, you know, other stuff as well, there are 3 different cards from Bloomburrow that all create Otter creature tokens. And these Otter creature tokens all as well have prowess, right? Like, so the Otterball Antics here, Ral, and the Storm Chaser's Talent. So all 3 of them will be able to synergize well with it. So between, you know, these 2 different sets of cards and looking at what the commanders are trying to do, I think that there is easily enough for you to be able to build an Otter deck here. You know, like you've got, you don't need quite as many, you know, creatures because of the fact that it's a Spellslinger deck. You don't need to go too hard into the creatures because you mostly want to kind of aim around, you know, those instants and sorceries, and then the kind of synergies here with the Otters kind of ends up being a bonus because, you know, doubling some of these critters that you've got out here can be incredibly helpful. All right, so next one here we've got is frogs. So there is a few different frog commanders. Most of them don't really care about frogs. So the only one here I'm kind of talking about is Clement, who's the only one who cares about frogs. The others also have like extra colors and stuff involved with them as well. While Clement is just, you know, the Simic colors, cares about frogs, cares about bouncing creatures, which is whole, you know, the frogs thing is bouncing creatures, ETBs, and kind of like the flicker blink kind of stuff as well. So having a look at the frogs, there is a lot of different frog cards. Frogs have been around for a bit. Some of them are older cards. So like this Anurid here, which is just a, like it's labeled as a beast, but then has been, if you go click on it in the Oracle text, it's been changed into a frog beast. So there is a fair few different frogs that you can potentially use. but not all of them are going to be useful in a frog deck. I do think there is enough that are useful within a frog deck. You're looking for ones that either have ETBs or do stuff when creatures enter the battlefield, which is useful as well. Or, you know, just, yeah, basically those two different things, right? ETBs or do stuff when creatures enter the battlefield. And there's a lot of different frogs that you can potentially use from here. Now, I will talk about Grolnock here, which is the previous kind of frog commander. I don't think he has a huge amount of synergy alongside Clement. He, you know, has some kind of allowing you to get more draw and stuff by making you mill cards and then being able to play those cards. But overall, you know, he doesn't have a huge amount of actual synergy alongside him. He's just going to be a extra draw and stuff. But there are some really nice frogs in here. You know, Haze Frog is great if you can flicker it on an enemy turn, prevent combat damage that other creatures would deal. Really great. You've got like Galloping Lizrog here, which allows you to take away +1/+1s from your other creatures, which allows you to be able to flicker them additional times, which is nice. You know, some of the new frogs as well, especially because of like, you know, Bloomburrow are really great. The best one in here is, or one of the best ones is the Valley Might Caller. Whenever a frog, rabbit, raccoon, or squirrel enter, you can put a +1/+1 onto him, which means you can, you know, whenever you flicker something, right, it's entering again. So therefore, you know, he's just going to get bigger. You're going to have a big Valley Might Caller here. Overall, yep, I do think that there is definitely enough frogs to be able to make a deck out of here. I'm personally building one around it. Now, keep in mind that just because I say, you know, oh, there's not enough of something, doesn't mean that you necessarily don't want to build that, or, you know, it's not an option. You can substitute some of them with like, you know, changelings and stuff like that. I've got changelings sitting around that I'm looking at here. You know, there's ways to be able to make it work if you want to. It's just more of a not suggested in my opinion, or, you know, you're going to have to work a little bit harder for it. So as for squirrels, there's a lot of squirrel commanders. There's like 4 different squirrel commanders that all care about squirrels now. The best one's probably still Chatterfang, as everyone's saying. I personally prefer Camellia, just because I wanted to have like the synergy alongside foods and, you know, squirrels and stuff like that. But Chatterfang is probably going to be the strongest one, and, you know, he has an amazing I love the raised foil art for this. You know, Chatterfang's just overall going to be the best option here. And I'm not going to focus too much on it either, because of the fact that we know there's enough squirrels. People were building squirrel commanders before this. And the fact that, you know, squirrels literally have a precon around them. There's plenty enough squirrels here, whether it's squirrels or squirrel tokens. You will be able to create a lot of squirrels and have a lot out there. All right, we've got rabbits here. So Phineas is basically the best rabbit commander in my opinion. Like, he's going to be the one that cares about rabbits the most, putting +1/+1s out onto rabbits, other tokens as well, because they care about tokens too. Burke as well, and then we've got Balin here. Balin, obviously, with the Naya colors. I've included him because of the fact that rabbits are all about tokens, so I think that he could be a rabbit commander, and you could run rabbits with him. But I prefer going wider with Balin. Like, I don't think limiting myself to rabbits with Balin, I would enjoy that. People might, like, it's going to be fun for you potentially, but I just personally don't like it. But Phineas looks like a really great rabbit commander here. And there is a few rabbits here, whether it's, you know, stuff from this actual, from Bloomburrow, or you can go back further with, like, you know, the Pollen Shield Hare cares about rabbits. Preston creates, you know, illusions, which are going to be copies of creatures, right? Like, so they're going to be copies of your different rabbits and stuff. Regal Bunnycorn's going to be that. You know, there's lots of different rabbits that you can potentially use here. Mostly, again, from Bloomburrow. But then there's also lots of rabbit tokens from Bloomburrow too. So, like, Jack Rabbit. Jack Rabbit alone will create so many rabbits. It's going to be crazy. Kadira creates a lot of rabbits. You know, you've got, like, Warren Warleader as well. So between, like, you know, including these cards here, and then the very few cards here that aren't going to be, you know, included in that one. You might be stretching it a little bit for rabbits, right? Like, unless you kind of start adding in a lot more kind of populating kind of stuff. If you start adding more populating stuff and creating like more rabbit tokens and kind of spreading out your rabbit tokens more, I think you could definitely kind of get there. They're just going to be like, rabbits is going to be a bit harder than any of the other ones that we've kind of talked about yet so far. All right, we've got lizards. Lizards as well is going to be bonkers. So because of the way Gev works, he's going to put +1/+1s on creatures that enter based on each opponent who's lost life. So if you deal 3 damage, like 1 damage to each opponent, which there's so many ways to be able to do that, each creature you bring in is going to have 3 +1/+1s on it. Again, anime art is freaking bonkers. I love it. But having a look at the lizards, like, there are so many lizards that it's going to be, yeah. It's not even like a question of could you make this work, right? Because of the way lizards work, all the Viashinos all got retconned into lizards. So this one, Daggercaster here, when it enters, it deals 1 damage to each opponent and 1 damage to each creature your opponents control. That's going to proc it. You know, like, there's just so many different rabbits out. Rabbits. Well, I'm saying rabbits. So many different lizards out here that are like dealing damage and stuff. And if you include into it like anything that like deals damage when stuff enters, so any of those like burn spells, like like impact tremory kind of things, then you're going to be able to do some really nice stuff. This one here as well is interesting. Kedis, whenever a commander you control deals combat damage to an opponent, it deals that much damage to each opponent. That can go really, really, really nice because of the fact that, you know, you can get your Gev really big and then kind of swing him in at people, do some really nice stuff with that. Overall, you know, there's definitely enough lizards, right? Like, even like Magebane Lizard here, whenever a player casts a non-creature spell, it deals damage to that player equal to the number of non-creatures of spells they've cast this turn. You could do bonkers stuff with that. You know, the Viashino already were kind of, there's a lot of different ones that were already about, you know, dealing damage and going in for attacks and stuff. So they're going to be able to proc off of this really nice and really easily, which means that, you know, Gev's going to go crazy. We've got Castrel here. I'm not going to focus too much on Castrel either. There's 289 birds within blue-white. You can make it work. I've already, you know, I went through my bulk and found enough birds that can make this work. My friend as well had some birds there that sent me over. Now, keep in mind that within Bloomburrow, a lot of the birds cared about non-flying creatures. So if we go back to this, flyers boosting non-flyers, that is not really going to work with Castrel because of the fact that he cares so much about birds. There is like one bird within blue-white that is not flying already. Now you could create, you know, have birds that create other tokens. So like there's like Kingfisher, I think creates, or Nightfisher, I think it's Nightfisher, creates fish, and then you can make those fish fly. But personally, you know, there's enough birds here that you don't need to go and create like, you know, you don't need to go and create a deck that's built around non-flying birds when you can just do stuff like this and add in stuff that boosts all the flying and do all that kind of stuff. Like, look, I've only just got to B and I've finished the first page. Like, there are so many birds in here, you can make it work easily. And because of the way, you know, Castrel works, it's just deal combat damage. They're flying. A lot of birds are going to synergize well with that really, really easily. All right, we've got the mice here. This is probably the first one here that I'm going to say probably don't build. I'm going to build it because I am a masochist and because I pulled like this. Look at her raised foil art, Mabel. But mice, I just don't think have enough to be able to work. Like, you could potentially use Arthur, but even then, like, you know, Arthur just adds blue, but there's still not changing anything to do with the mice or anything. He doesn't boost anything with mice. He's not really like a mice commander, and adding the blue doesn't add any more mice. So there's 21 mice currently, or, you know, mice adjacent like Bravekin Duo here. A lot of them are based around either creatures entering from WoW, like the celebration stuff here, or they're built around the new Valiant mechanic, which is whenever they become the target of a spell or spell or ability. Now, technically, you know, stuff that is equipments that targets these will proc it. So building around mice and equipments could potentially work and do decently well. but I just don't think that there's really enough mice that you were able to actually build a very coherent deck. It's going to be a challenge. I'm going to do it, and then I'll kind of figure out if I can get it to work entirely, and maybe someone, you know, smarter than me's got it to work. There are a couple mice tokens that you can add in here, like Enchanted Carriage and 3 Blind Mice. Both of them, you know, are mice that can potentially work with this, but I don't know, guys. This one's here is looking a bit dry. You know, these kind of creatures are all basically like evergreen. We're going to have mice forever. There's going to be new mice in upcoming packs and stuff like that. Not as a focus, but, you know, whether we go back to Bloomburrow or not, there will be more mice. So maybe we'll get something good in the future as well. All right, we've got Mura or, you know, Bellow. Mura is probably the only one that really cares about Raccoons, and Raccoons look like they could be an interesting deck, but very similar to like the Alania deck and stuff. It's mostly because you're not going to go super Raccoons, right? So looking at how many Raccoons there are 21 Raccoons. Now, most of those are from, you know, Bloomburrow and stuff. There are a couple that aren't: Bramble Familiar, Kotai, Scavenger, but none of them, or Scrappy Bruiser here, none of them really synergize with the actual deck here. Most of them are just kind of like if they're not from Bloomburrow. But the way, you know, you can make this work is kind of build it more around like the expend mechanic. So using your Raccoons to be able to ramp into things. So, you know, use a Raccoon package as like all your ramp and stuff, and, you know, have Mura come in, and then, you know, at the beginning of your first main phase, you're gaining like, say, 10 mana because of the fact you've got Raccoons out your butthole, and then use those Raccoons to be able to play big, you know, whether it's going to be if you have Bellow in it or something, or if you just, you know, play it around like vehicles or something along those lines. You could play it just around so many things because of the way they're all like are built around expend. You want to go big with these creatures, and then, you know, you could use them to ramp up into big stuff and play big stuff essentially. So I don't know. Raccoons is kind of borderline. I think they're like just above mice, and I think you could make it work just because you don't have to kind of synergize alongside them as much, but you're still kind of going to be a little bit dry here. All right. Oh, there is one that creates Raccoons, which you definitely will be needing. And then you want to make, you know, you could build it around like having some life gainy kind of stuff to create more Raccoons, maybe. Who knows? All right, we've got rats. Not going to focus too much on rats either because there's 87 different rats that are in blue and black, and then blue-red has like some extras if you want to go with Wick, who is basically a rat commander as well. Or, you know, there's a whole bunch of rat creature tokens, 15 rat creatures, or 24 if you look at red as well. So, you know, there's just so many different black and red, black blue rats and then black blue red rats that you could easily make a commander deck around these, whether it's, you know, just creating a bunch of rat tokens or making big rats, or however you want to play with rats, just 3 rats at people. All right, and the last one here, which is the one that I might make like everyone's sleeping on this creature on this commander deck for a start, sleeping on this anime art. Anime arts are all great. Zoraline. So Zoraline is obviously built around bats and doing stuff with bats, gaining life because of bats, and then you can, you know, resurrect things. And, you know, having a look at the bats, there is a lot of different bats here. If we put in Oracle to do with life, there's going to be, you know, 26 alone that are to do with life and life gaining and stuff like that. There's going to be so many, like you can get so much kind of this, just, you know, bats have been around for ages, right? So I don't think that you're going to have an issue building a bat deck. Whether, you know, people will build it or not, who knows? I am very, very excited to build her. She looks really great. And as I said, like, you know, there's just plenty of bats that you can potentially use alongside her. And then there's, you know, stuff with bat tokens as well. So like Bat Colony here, if you want to go with caves to be thematic alongside your bats. You've got Aclazots here creating some bat tokens. The Lunar Convocation, which is the new one here, creates bats based off of if you gained or lost life this turn. So there's a lot of different cards in here that create bats, and, you know, some of the vampires create bats too. But the thing that I wanted to kind of talk about here, and why I'm going to make a video that's separate to this, is people sleeping on it. When you return When you do, return target non-land permanent with mana value 3 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield with a finality counter on it. Finality counter. If we have a look at finality counters are... where's the actual definition of them here? If a permanent with a finality counter on it will die, it is exiled instead. Right? Now, I'm pretty sure that finality counters, like, do it, like, either way. What I'm not going to talk about that for now. What I'm trying to get at is this here is just a non-land permanent. You can bring back fucking whatever you want with Zoraline. It does not have to be a creature. Anyway, with that, Zoraline. So, you know, having a look at them. Birds, easy. Rats, easy. Lizards, easy. Raccoons, mid. If you go into big creature ramp, use your Raccoons as like the package to get into some of the big, like, even if you go into like the big, like Calamity Beast to kind of keep it on theme, easy. Like, not easy, medium. Rabbits, kind of medium. You could do some really nice things with rabbits. Bats, easy. Otters, I think, are easy as well. Squirrels, easy. Mouse, kind of borderline. And then rabbits. Frogs are like medium easy, right? So let me know down in the comments what you guys think. Have a great day and goodbye.